All engine running. Liftoff. We have a liftoff.
Good evening. It's Monday again already. Where has that week gone? Welcome along to Reading the Signs with me, Comedy John Ryan, and my pals from the world of comedy, showbiz, entertainment, and anywhere else I can find them, really. Every week we talk about mental health, mental wellness, what we do, why we do it, how we deal with the good times, the bad times. We want you to help as well. Let us have your top tips for well-being. Let us know you're there by putting comments in the box. Do give us a like on YouTube, SoundCloud, Facebook. Just tell your friends, really. And subscribe, of course. Very important that you subscribe at this day and age. Quick mention to Lost Boys UK for this fantastic theme tune. Have a look at my website, happytohelpyou.com. We've got great guests. We've got a great show. We've got a great audience. Let's get to it. Well, good evening. Welcome along to Reading the Signs, Monday evening. I'm John Ryan here, as I am every week, with another guest from the world of entertainment. Always someone who I've got personal affection for, or respect for, or something. But before we get to tonight's guest, let's just see, how's your day been? If you're out there, do give us a like. Let us know that you're there. Leave your comments in the box. Go on to YouTube, SoundCloud, Twitter, Instagram, all them social media places, men's radio station, female, women's radio station.com, and Deluxe Radio. Just wherever we are, just let us know that you're there, what you think, any questions, whether you like it, don't like it, that sort of stuff. It's all about social media days, isn't it? Anyway, how's today been for you guys? I've had a brilliant day because it's been raining and it's been cold, which for me, paradise. So as always, I'll explain that the fact is today was raining and cold. But the truth for me was that it was a good day. For you, if you like the sunshine and blue skies, maybe it was a bad day, but we both saw the same day. It's how we experienced it and internalized it. And when we talk about mental well-being, it's the same. We can all experience the same thing, but it affects us differently. So just always bear that in mind whenever we're talking about anything through the hour. As always, myself and my guest tonight, the brilliant Jeff Mirza, neither of us are clinicians or practitioners. Just two blokes who've managed to get this far in life, doing all right. And if there's anything that we say that might be of use to you or help you, then more power to it. At the end of the show, as always, I will suggest some places you can go to for further information and further resources. So I'm going to tell you about tonight's guest. Those of you who know me well know that I travel all over the world. I perform in theatres with 1,500, 2,000 people in on a very regular basis. And a lot of it stems back to this guy that's my guest tonight. Because when we start out, we all find someone who believes in us or who give us stage time or an opportunity. And tonight's guest, Jeff Mirza, was one of the people who had the most impact on the early days of my career because he trusted me to do 20 minutes, 30 minutes, and even 40 minutes. Maybe it's because he could see a talent in me, but more likely than that, it's just it's who he is. He just thinks, I'll give anyone a chance. Very decent human being, and although I haven't seen much of him over the last few years, I've always kept up to date with what he's doing. I'm dead proud of the fact that he's now having some success in the world of film and television, and he's also back gigging again. Jeff, like many other comics, kind of worked out pretty quickly that to succeed isn't necessarily about getting on to Mock the Week 8 out of 10 cats. It's about being able to get paid for what you do and what you're good at, bearing in mind that we are all virtually unemployable in a conventional sense. So he's managed to get a career out of the last 25 years just by being himself, and that's because he's funny, he's engaging, he's a decent guy. So I want you all to feel very, very welcome. It's a real pleasure. Popular and successful man of colour in the world. Good night, ladies and gentlemen. It's Mirza. There we go. How you doing, mate?
I'm very well, sir. How you feeling? Good? You're looking good.
Not like you, mate. Look, you got your jacket, you got your silk shirt, and
yeah,
it's
got to go back next. This stuff. It's got to go back. Still got the tag.
Colourful, classy. That's you. Plus, you've got your British roots, your Pakistani flag as well there.
Yeah, that's just covering an old computer.
I've got a Japanese laundry behind me, mate. There's people working back there. doing cleansing things. What have you been up to today, Jeff?
Today's been a day really just a usual Monday. Not a lot going on. I mean, I've got a family, so there's a lot of family stuff going on really. Just the weekend was busy, so gigs and stuff. So, and then I had to do some family stuff again, basically seeing my mum. And then so today it's like that. Then the weekend I'll be gigging again, and hopefully in the week on Wednesday I'm going to go and see a film that I'm in. So so just little things are happening, but each day is different.
Yeah, I think that's a key to being happy, is to make sure you have something to do, someone to do it with, and a bit of hope, something to aim for. I was always told. What I think.
Yeah, it's like that. I mean, as you say, each day goes, and for each one of us, each day we all experience the same day different. You know?
Yeah, that's right, mate. That's right.
I mean,
so, look,
okay. I'll give you a bit of news. A friend of mine, who I did an episode of Good Calm Hospital. Her husband passed away, so
Oh man,
so it's very sad. But somebody who I worked with, their husband passed away. So,
but it's just that life every day. Life goes on. Life is all about just keep going. Just keep going, isn't it? It's what we're going to do next. Where we're going. Take me back to the early days, mate. Where are you and your family? You got brothers and sisters? What's the story?
Yeah, I've got a brother. Obviously, my father's passed away, so it's just my mom, and then I've got a brother and a sister, and I've got a wife and
a wife. Yeah, a wife. Where are you and your brothers and sisters? Oldest, youngest, what?
Yeah, I'm the middle child, but me and my brother, we look very similar. So my mum used to dress us up the same. So she'd push us through the streets of East London, and people go, "Are they twins?" No, they're not. But they'd say, "Look, but why you got them dressed the same?" My mum would just enjoy the idea of having twins, but we were, yeah. So my brother and me, about a year's difference, and he's basically done the family thing. Got married to who they told him to get married to, and working in the family business, and so he's what I would have been if I had done what they had said,
if you could have behaved.
Yeah. And sometimes he does say to me, I could have done that comedy thing. Because he's a very funny guy, my brother. I could have done that comedy thing, but I had to get married, didn't it? I had to get married. I mean, we can't all do this thing that you're doing, He doesn't talk like that, but I like to pretend.
No, but now he does for the rest of the world. Were you a happy child? Were you a fun, lively?
Yeah, I was a happy child, but I don't want to sound like an old man who's like going on about millennials. But I worked in a shop. My dad had a shop. We've lived over the shop for a good 15 years. Wow. We lived at a shop in Ilford and in Barking, in East London, and so we did that thing that you do where you come back from school and then you start working in the shop. You wake up on Saturdays and you're working in the shop. Whereas if you say that to someone now, they're like, "How much do they pay you?" And the answer is nothing.
Yeah. And what sort of shop is it?
Well, this is the joke. People go, "Well, we could eat as much as you could," but it was a hardware shop. So
okay. It's that grounding, isn't it? And then school. What was school like? Did you enjoy school? Happy?
School was good, but those same schools I drive by every day when I go and see my mum, and those schools are completely changed. I mean, because we're talking a long time ago. So school was tough, but people have forgotten that, Britain, we've got this thing about climate change and everything, but in the 1970s and 80s, I mean, it was just a foggy, miserable place in a way. I mean, not so much the 80s, but I remember the late 70s was very foggy and miserable, and, people had paraffin heaters. Some people didn't have central heating and that. So, it's a different world. If you explain it to somebody, they start thinking, "Oh God," it's like someone talking to me about the 1920s or something. It's so long ago,
Smog, pea soup smog coming from the front.
Yeah, but there was fog everywhere. It felt like it was called Foggy Albion.
Were you bright? Were you academic?
I was one of these people. I mean, a lot of comedians say this. I was quite bright, and then I start messing about. So I do my thing, finish my English essay or whatever maths, and then I start messing around because I just got bored. And that's where the kind of comedy started from. And then you mentioned school, but I remember at school, we had the school assembly, which is always a laugh. You had the school assembly. I remember the teacher going, and this was a school where it was a comprehensive school, and they started doing what they call CSEs. They used to call it GCSEs. They call it now, but CSEs. And they said, "We've got CSE in automotive training now," which is basically fixing cars. They started this in like late 70s. And I remember the headmaster saying, and so we've got some old bangers out there in the playground. They're just there for the day, and they're going to go into a garage. So don't play with the old bangers. Anyway, at playtime or recess, I remember going out there, and at the time, Columbo was really big. My name is Lieutenant Columbo, you know. And there was an old banger. And I just get in the old banger and started doing Columbo, and people started laughing. My name is Lieutenant Columbo, you know. A really kind of hammy impression. And people are laughing. And to this day, I don't know whether they were laughing at my impression or laughing at the fact that the headmaster was standing behind me. And he sort of, and in those days, headmasters would literally grab your collar. I remember, you know, I got the cane. So I always remember I got the cane for doing an impression of Columbo.
Oh, you know, you got laughs. You got, you know, as a performer,
I got
that's
cane.
the main thing, isn't it? Main thing. I got
laughs.
A quick shout out, Steve Troop, saying good evening, joining us. Steve Troop is our resident security expert who's constantly trying to protection work for our guests. And now that you're a film star, he will come on offer to be your personal bodyguard next time we're traveling to Cannes.
Sure, you keep the groupies away from.
That's it. So then, secondary school. Where did you go to secondary school?
No, that was secondary school.
Oh, secondary school.
And
okay.
Then, yeah, but then one was we crossed the line and went into a different borough. And I remember the teacher said, "You've got to move." So we moved to another school, which was a tough school. And this school was. Do you remember the boxer Nigel Benn?
Yeah.
Yeah. He was in the same year as me at school, in the same So I remember he was in our school, and that school. I remember one year, our form teacher said, "You know what? We need someone to do the assembly," and nobody wanted to do it. Everyone was like 14 or 15. Everyone was like, "Sir, I don't want to do that, sir, assembly." No, we need to do the assembly. It's our turn. And I said, "Oh, I'll tell you what. I'll go and do a speech about my trip to Pakistan." And they went, "All right, we've got someone who's going to talk." And so I went out there on in front of the kids for assembly, and I got laughs again about my recent trip to Pakistan, and that's where I felt like a buzz. I was like, it was a gig in front of my peers, and they laughed. And afterwards, people were like, "You were brilliant, man. You were brilliant, man. You're wicked, man, wicked." And so
was it a very mixed school? Was it?
Yeah, we had sort of. It was predominantly sort of white, let's say 80%, 85%, and then there was Asian and African Caribbean.
It's funny because I remember when I was at school, our school was probably one of the first minority white secondary schools, and so I thought it was fantastic, But because we never saw it, we see English rather than white, if that makes sense. And I always remember once, kid in my class, Tefta. He was just always proud Pakistani. Proud, not English, I'm Pakistani, right? He could fight as well. So when the Indian kids, when some of the white kids called the Indian kids Pakis and things like that, he would fight them and go, "They're not Pakistanis, they're Indian," right? And he was like their protector. Yeah. Anyway, I used to go to him. He would because he didn't want them, because he didn't. Yeah. He had more sort of ill will towards the Indian kids than he did towards the white kids. But he didn't want the white kids thinking Indian kids were Pakistani. So anyway, when it comes to cricket and that, of course, he was very proud, right? Then when we was about 12, he went to Pakistan. I think it was probably about the first time he'd been since he was about 5 or 6. And he decided, this is it for my history, my heritage. When he come back, I said, "How was it?" He goes, "I'm English." Oh, what? It's too hot.
I thought you say he came back with a wife. What happened to a friend of mine?
No, he came back and he's like, "No, I'm English." From then, he decided he wasn't Pakistani. He wanted to be English. Yeah. And he did all he could to resist the whole kind of, cultural identity that had been given. But so when you was, did you leave at 16? Did you do A-levels?
Yeah, so I was one of these guys who my parents were always saying to me, "No, son," and of course at the time it didn't mean anything to me. Now looking back on it, I can see what they were saying, but they were like, "You need to study. You need to study." And I was like, "Yeah, but this is, school. What am I going to study for? Because you can't see, but you need to study." And this was a big thing. I mean, I'll give you an example at school. I remember there was cross-country running. Every year we'd have this cross-country race. And that was quite good. I had good stamina. So I remember there's like 100 kids. And one year I came 5th. It's an absolute true story. I've got the certificate. I came 5th. I was at 106 kids. And I was so happy. I went home. I said, Mum, Daddy, I've come fifth. And they're like, son, you have come fifth. What is fifth? 4 people have beaten you. Then the next year I did it. I came third. This is a true story. I came third, and I was like, come on, I'm going to get a certificate. It's going to be a certificate. They're going to give it to me in the assembly, Mum. Oh, you're third. What is third? Third is nothing. 2 people have beaten you. And then the next year I ran it, and I came first. I went home and said, Mummy, Daddy, I've done it. I've beaten everyone. They said, why don't you study?
Brilliant.
All this running. What is this? Why are you not studying? And so I did it. That's true story, man. Yeah, true story.
Absolute quality.
Yeah, so they were very keen on education, and just because they said it's a way out, otherwise, there's just, you can go and just do stuff, but we think that you get educated. And so I was kind of like a reluctant academic, let's say. So I did some GCSEs. I got through it, tough school, and then I moved to another school for sixth form, and then I scraped together some A levels, and I did an engineering degree, and then which became a laugh.
Where did you do the degree?
The degree was it's called University of Westminster now. It was called something else then, Polytechnic.
Okay.
Or something.
Yeah.
But it's called University of Westminster. And so that became a bit of a laugh, because when you go to uni, it's actually easier in a way than going to A levels. The gap is. Yeah, so once at uni, I started socializing, having a laugh, and then we were doing kind of gigs. We were doing like fashion shows, and which was nice, at that age, Bhangra nights, fashion shows.
Wow.
And then, yeah. So then I got the degree which they wanted me to get, and then my parents wanted me to get married. And I thought, well, I don't know about this. And then I said, well, I can do a master's. So I did a master's degree as well, just to sort of keep off this sort of, you need to get married.
What did you do your master's degree?
It was, and I can't even remember the subject. It was called control engineering. It's some computer thing, and it's not really connected with civil engineering. But I did it just to get out of the whatever, And
quick shout out to Jason Perry. Jason for coming along as well. Tonight is Jeff Mirza, comedian, actor, engineer. Mate, I've got to change the description. I've got to go back and start again. Did you ever get a job in engineering?
Yeah, I mean, it's you can get a job in engineering because there's a lot of demand for it. People who never run out of engineering.
Did you work in engineering?
I did for a while. The only thing is you have to get up very early as a civil engineer. You've got to get up very early, crack of dawn. So that's why I kind of got credit for it, because before you're up at like 4 a.m.
But you know how many guests I have, right? I have so many guests that are comedians, and did you ever have a proper job? And they say, yeah, I was, whatever. And did you like it? No, to get up early.
Yeah,
something about having to get up early. It's the killer.
It really is. Yeah.
Tomorrow morning, I'm up at 5:30, right? To go out to where I'm doing some work, to get there for 8. And so that's it. I'll do it tomorrow, and I'll do it Wednesday as well. And then when I tell people, they're like, "Oh my God, you go up at 5:30 in the morning." But that's what most people have to do.
Yeah.
Crazy crackers. So where did you work?
I worked on building sites, like what they call it, I can't remember, a resident engineer you become, or then I worked in design office, which was much more tidier. Design office. Then I worked on a drawing board. But the thing about drawing, that's what my back is got problems because of that time, drawing on a board. And so I spent time doing that. But meanwhile, while I was doing that, my head was elsewhere, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
My head was like, thinking about how do I get out of this? And, and then I remember going to the first time, a friend of mine said, well, why don't you start doing comedy? Go to the comedy store. That was the only thing, the comedy store. So I never forgot the first bill that I saw there. It was like Mark Thomas, Jeff Green, Felix Dexter, and another comic who I remember in a moment. I remember going to the comedy store, and that was the old comedy store.
Yeah.
Square.
Leicester Square. And then was you just struck by it? Thought, I'll do that.
I like the whole idea because it was very subversive. This is the other thing about it. It was like, we're all in a room and we're all telling these jokes. And some of these jokes were like dirty jokes. I never heard dirty jokes being told in that way. I've heard dirty jokes, but I didn't hear jokes that were like about this subject, like not sex jokes, but just jokes about stuff that in that environment. And middle class people are like, and I was like, wow, this is great. And then I noticed that people like Mark Thomas were using that sort of comedy as a way of, coming out with their stuff. And then I was like, I'm blown away by that whole concept, that while people are laughing, you're educating them, or edutainment even.
Yeah,
edutainment. I was like, wow. And then I was like, are there any other places? Are there any places? Where do we learn this thing? Where, there was no one to tell you what to do. And the other thing was that getting out of the house, going back to what was happening at home. At home was like, you need to get married now. You need to get married, And so, you couldn't go to your parents, I'm going to go out clubbing. What? You are going disco? Oh my God. You couldn't do that. So I used to go, I'm going out comedy club. And my parents loved comedy. They used to watch Two Ronnies and, the Eric and Ernie and Two, they loved, we used to love comedy. Was the thing we used to bring in front of the TV.
Yeah.
So, but when I say comedy club, they were like, you could see them working out comedy club. And then I remember winning a competition. It was like £100 first prize. I remember sneaking into my parents' room and putting £100, cap on the next to my mum and dad. And then my dad woke up in the morning. Who did you leave that £100? And I was like, yeah. Well, where did you get that from? I was like, it was I won. Huh? People are paying you for this, because my dad was like, "Where is your moustache, you Charlie Chaplin? Lauren Hardy." I was like, "Yeah, Charlie Chaplin's like, where is it? No, but you need a funny moustache, funny walk, and Chaplin." I was like, "Dad, can you stop it?" So
brilliant. So where was your first ever gig?
First ever gig, I think it was probably something like the Comedy Caf. I think it was a Comedy Caf. I had a friend from uni who came around, who supported me, who took me down there. And it was I think it was that one that they do, that Wednesday night one. I've got a video somewhere. Yeah, where it was like open mic night. That's what it was. And I went there. I told about 10 gags, and about 3 got laughs. And I went home. The other 6 and 7 that didn't work, I didn't care. But the 3 that I got laughs on, like you get a titter, you think, I made that up. Yeah, I've got this. And, and then the friend I was with was like, you did quite well. You didn't do brilliantly, but you did quite well.
You did quite well.
Yeah. And I went home. I was like, this is like something new. And, you just feel that there's a kind of like a power that you get from it. But it wasn't the power. It's just the fact that it's live. The thing about live is that at that moment, there is nothing. You're just
in the moment.
You're naked in front of them. And then you can say anything you want at that moment. And if you get a laugh, although you can tell somebody a month later it's not funny, at that moment it's funny, and
And then when you had a tough gig, then how did it affect you? How did it get you down?
Yeah, so this is the other thing that happens, because you're all like, I had a great gig last night. Then you forget that you go to places where, or you next thing you know, you're basically in a pub shouting at people, and you think, well, what happened there? Well, why am I not funny tonight? And that's because you're just basically standing in the mic while people are having a drink, and you're just in the background. And so you think, okay, well, that's not a proper gig. Yeah, but I learned something from that, which is that there's a way to make that gig work, but it's not the same as as doing your nice stories. So I realized,
and I think that's part of the learning curve, isn't it? That's where you got to sometimes.
Or somebody book you and go, we've got a gig, we've got like a private function, and you think and then you realize the private function, they're not actually comedy audience now. They're just people who are having their, like it's a banking do, and you're there, and so there's people there who have got no interest in what you've got to say. And
I can remember going along. Someone said, "Yeah, we've got this gig, and it's going to be a private function. There's no function on in the other room. But there was no other room. It was a bar, and the actual serving part was in the middle, like cheers. On our side was a guy's 40th, and on the other side, they had a funeral. In Hoxton, and it ended up just with a fight with the people from the funeral fighting the birthday people because they thought they were being disrespectful towards whoever had died. It was like, what? But people, they think put it on, and people will turn up and they will laugh. But
yeah, I remember going to one in Bristol where they booked me, and there's always boxing. It's a boxing, and there's a very famous boxing club in Bristol, which I can't remember the name right. Yeah, it's a well-known boxing club for kids, and a lot of people have come up from that. And they booked me, and I went there, and I'm not seeing 7-year-old boys fighting. It's like, go on, hit him. God, these 7-year-old boys are fighting in a boxing ring. And it's like, all right, now you're on. And these kids are out and there's like bits of blood on the floor and you're in the middle of a ring. And these people aren't, once again, they're not really here to see you. You're just filling in. You know, there's 4, you know, you're just trying to make them laugh and you get the odd laugh here and there. And so.
Then you got to drive all the way back from Bristol the next 2 hours later. Yeah. Yeah.
And I remember doing another gig. The other thing I started getting these Asian shows. You know, we have got a wedding. Someone phoned me up and said, "Listen, can you speak Punjabi?" I said, "Yeah, so I understand it." Okay. I said, "Yeah, but I can't do comedy in Punjabi." No. Do you understand? We have a Muslim man. He's marrying a Sikh lady. I was like, okay, that's already a problem now. Right? What do you want me there for? No, but if we do comedy, then the families, you know, they will feel like, you know. And I was like, yeah, okay. Well, how much? How much is this? Yeah. All right. So they gave me some money or whatever. So I thought, all right, okay. I remember going there, and it was always civilized, in a civilized hotel, but there was like tension in the room. Yeah. And the people getting married, the boy and girl were lovely. They loved each other. But the families, there was a anyway. So I'm doing my stuff, and I'm getting laughs. I'm like, yeah, okay, I'm Mr. Funny Man. At the end, but I could see there's one guy who's looking at me, like with a lot of tension in his face, and I went, you know, at the end, you go, thank you very much. Somehow I mentioned we're shaking hands, and he grabs my hand like this. And I think all that tension that he had about the marriage, this old 70-year-old man had, he sort of gave it to me. He's like, you are not a comedian. You are a joker. You are just a joker, okay? And I was like, and I had quite a good gig, so I was like, okay. And now I'm holding this man's hand. And you know, culturally, I cannot go and sort of, you know, go into him because it might be Mom, Dad, you know, you're a joker. And I'm there, and we're talking about for a good 20 seconds. He's not letting go of my hand. Joker! Anyway, so then I heard in the background, Dad, leave him alone, leave. Anyway, okay. Anyway, so I sort of was like, everyone's like, what was that guy about? I was like, okay, it doesn't matter, whatever. Anyway, it's a true story. 2 years later, I'm doing a gig at Black Country. I won't tell you the full name, but Black Country, whatever association. And I'm doing a gig, and it was a black tie event, completely different. I had quite a good gig, and do the same thing at the end, shaking a few hands, and you're not a joker. You're not a comedian, you are a joker. It was like 200 miles away. You are a joker, okay? You are a joker. You are not a comedian, you're a joker. And then I heard, Dad, you can't make this stuff up, man. It's just real. You know, 200 miles away, completely different place. So anyway, I just realized it cost different in different places. So you have to have different weapons. You know this yourself. Different weapons for different scenarios. And, you know, you've just got to keep... And at that time, you know, the truth is I was not doing Comedy Store every night or whatever. You know, I'm just a jobbing comedian. And you're going to go up and down the country, you know.
But that's the reality that people don't see, isn't it? It's like I said at the start. So I'm in a theatre and there's now 1,500, 2,000 people. But they don't realise that I cut my teeth in a pub in Harlow with boarded up windows, you in the car park going, just do 10. Just do 10, John. You know, and that's where I think a lot of the time when people say, what's the secret to succeeding in comedy? It's just keep going. You've just got to keep going. There's no other great recipe. If I just ask you, hold on for a second, just to welcome anyone who's joining us on SoundCloud or YouTube, mensradiostation.com, womensradiostation.com, Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, LinkedIn. I'm John Ryan. This is Reading the Signs. Tonight's guest is actor, engineer, comedian, Jeff Mirza. We're just chatting away, chewing the fat. Jeff, tell us about acting then. What happened when you realised?
Well, early 2000s, somebody said to me, I got a call. I didn't have an acting agent or anything, and the guy said to me, "No, you're real." I was like, "Okay, yeah, I am real." "Yeah, but you're real, and we've got a part for somebody in Walthamstow. It's like a director, like we need someone like really like gritty." And I was like, "Okay, what you're really getting at is you don't want to pay some la-di-da comedian or la-di-da actor, sort of, you know." And then pay him the full rate. You want me for almost nothing or whatever. But anyway, so I remember doing a movie which was called "It Was an Accident," which was quite good. And in there I had a few lines. One of them was with basically I was driving a cab. A guy called Chiwetel Ejiofor, you know, from 12 Years a Slave. He was in it. Yeah. And so I got this, you know, a part in my first movie, which was quite successful. for me anyway. And so then from then I realized that there are people who do want you, you know. And I did do a lot of shopkeeper roles though. Yeah.
Yeah, but you know what? That's how it goes. That's how it goes. You know, you got sometimes
At some point, and
work
I'd
like
go
that.
into castings, and it'd be like they'd say things like, you know what, this part, you know, is really pivotal. You know? It's really pivotal part, because what happens is he comes into your shop, and then he says, you know, can I have some cigarettes? And he leaves. But it's really pivotal. You know, they try to sell it to you. Yeah, the casting people, because they'd be quite embarrassed because it'd be like 2 lines.
Yeah.
But I'd be
builds
like,
up that portfolio.
Hmm?
And that's what people don't realize. It builds up that portfolio, and you have to understand that you got to start somewhere. You got to start, you know.
But it did become, and then I got this niche part. I became the shopkeeper who got used to get angry, because I could do angry quite good. Angry was quite easy for me. So the shopkeeper who loses it. So I wasn't the genial shopkeeper. I was a genial shopkeeper who twists and turns. Get out of my shop! Okay, you get out.
Yeah.
And so I've thrown quite a few actors out of my shops.
Maybe get a compilation video. People don't realize that even when you see like Brad Pitt, he starts off with little bit parts, and if you've got the right face or you've got the right something, someone remembers you from a film they did 10 years ago, and they'll go get you into it. I only ever went to about 3 auditions in my life, and after the 3rd one, which is where a guy asked me to walk around, strip down to my pants, and walk around the room pretending to catch jelly falling out of the sky. And I said, no, mate, no, I'm not doing that. You know, like, you know, I can be a carpenter. I can get paid work. Just good luck. Yeah. And then that was on the Wednesday. And then on the Saturday, I was doing a gig at Jongleurs, and 2 of the other acts who had the same manager as me, I said, what have you been up to? They're like, I went through this audition the other day. And I said, oh, yeah, did you strip down to your pants and catch jelly out the sky? And they both kind of sheepishly went, yeah. And I said, well, I wouldn't do it. I don't. Okay, why wouldn't you do it? I said, I'm going to end up on some Channel 4 hidden camera show. What can we get these wannabes to do? And you can see both of them looking crestfallen. And then months later, it was a Skittles advert, and I could see exactly why the director wanted it. But I can't do that, mate.
Yeah,
that's not for me. But you know, I'm not going to get cast as like a 20-something ballet dancer. So you got to play to your strengths.
Yeah, well, that's what happened with me. I mean, I've done a lot of roles where, you know, as a cab driver, shopkeeper, and you know, and sometimes it's like, it's a movie in Germany, and you know, you're still a shopkeeper, but you're in Germany. I'm like, okay, all right. You know, they sort of like, I did a French movie. What was it called? Ne quittez pas. I was like, okay, it's a French movie, sounds great. Ne quittez pas, which means hold on. And I was like, yeah, well, what the part is, you see, that you're a cab driver and you pick him up from the tourist station. I was like, okay, it's still the same thing with a big French actor in the back, but I'm still driving a cab, you know.
What's your favourite film you've done? Favourite film or TV show? I mean, your CV now is very impressive, isn't it? You've got like 30 or 40 kind of films and TV series on there.
Yeah, the best film is the one that I think is about to come out. The What's Love Got to Do with It? This one with Emma Thompson, Lily James, and Shazad Latif, Shabana Azmi, directed by Shekhar Kapoor, who did the Elizabeth movies. That's the one. Yep. What's Love Got to Do?
Mate, I do want research. I'm not just sitting making this stuff up, just pressing buttons.
Yeah. Yeah. And
just
so this film is about cross-cultural marriage. It's about a guy who wants to I'm playing the dad, and my son, I want him to have what I have, which is a good marriage. And I sort of want him to go down the route of marrying someone, because, you know, it doesn't have to be for love. Just get married to somebody, and, you know, love will come later. And he's got other ideas. And so that's why it's called What's Love Got to Do with It? I'm like, well, don't worry about love. You know, why don't you keep talking about love and, you know, who you want to click with, you know. Mm-hmm. And so then he goes off and he does what we say, and something happens and stuff happens. Basically, it's a rom-com. And there's some good scenes in it. There's lots of funny scenes, especially at where there's like a matrimonial, a guy who does a matrimonial stuff. Mm-hmm. We're trying to hook up our son with, you know, a prospective.
Is
female.
this going to be the one though that's going to establish you? Do you think you get more kind of?
I think because it's a working title movie, and I'm playing a reasonable part in it. I'm playing the dad, and there's my son's in it. My son and some big, nice actors. Emma Thompson in it. We had a great time working with her. Lily James.
And so, how does it work? They send you a script, and you just look at it and go, "That's good. That's not good," or you go.
They send you a script. They say, "Are you interested in this? Do you think it's a go?" If it's no, if you can't do the dates, that's not a thing. But they send you a script, and you look at it, and you think, "Yeah, I can do this." And they say, he's a guy from the Pakistani community. I know that. And then he's a dad. Okay, I can do a dad. And then he's a dad who's a particular type of dad. And then obviously because of my father and my uncles, I know a whole range of emotions that they have. So I'm not saying I'm playing myself in it because I'm not, but I can relate to that totally. And then obviously having been a son, and I had this experience where my parents wanted me to marry somebody, and I had to get out of that. So to get out of that arranged marriage, I had another marriage to get out of that marriage. So I can relate to that whole time when your parents put you under pressure to get married now, because you need to get married, and everything that happens in your life, you need to get married.
You think? What's the?
Because I think the solution to everything is getting married. You need to get married. No, but what is it? You need to get married because you're not married.
But also because it consolidates money, family, property. It's all that. It's stability, isn't it? Ompuri. Do you remember the guy? Was his name Ompuri? The guy, the dad out of
Ompuri as well. I worked with him.
Ompuri. Yeah, he made a great career out of being that character, didn't he?
East is East. I worked with him in White Teeth. He was a good actor. He died 5-6 years ago. He was good.
Yeah, he was young, wasn't he? Was he 60 or something?
Yeah, he wasn't. I think he had some health issues, really. Towards the end.
I mean, East is East. I could watch that on a loop.
Yeah,
hilarious film, man.
Well, it's if you obviously Ayub Khan Dean, who wrote that. That's a true story. That was his father growing up. Yeah, growing up in Salford in a chip shop. Dad runs a chip shop. Dad's got a previous marriage in Pakistan. Yeah. That was all true. That was his.
And I went to the cinema to watch West is West, which is a completely different film, and they obviously had money and more writers and just changed the dynamic of it. But it's just that thing that I guess I'm getting to is that I on stage and me, and you on film are you, and people kind of go. Well, because I use actors, my little company, we use actors for role play and stuff, and it's funny how many of them will kind of almost go, I've got audition for this, or I've got to read a part for this. I'm going, mate, what you're doing today is just as valid as doing a play, a film, or whatever you do, role play scenarios. And then it's that whole thing about acting. It's like comedy. It's such a big area, isn't it? But
I remember I got cast to play someone who's suffering from early dementia. Obviously, it was a few years ago, because now I probably wouldn't be early dementia. But I remember we shot it in South London, on the streets of South London. And, they saw me. They were like, we want you to play this guy. And I did have, a family member who had dementia. And, they were like, and this won awards, and it wasn't on TV or anything.
Yeah, I saw it. No, I saw it. You had it in your Facebook. Didn't I vote for you or something as well?
Well, thanks for that. That's probably what got the award.
No, you sent me a link and I voted. I clicked on it. I voted it. And,
they kind of really liked it, because they were like, this is something that's out there that people are talking about.
Yeah. And especially in different communities, got different ways of dealing with it.
Yeah. Well, the thing is that our community used to have this thing where either you're sane or you're mad, and then I'm mad. They didn't have any kind of degrees of people who are like, he's some. It's like, you're mad because you don't want to get married. You are mad, and then there's like a taboo, a subject. This is a taboo thing that somebody who's like, people can cope with someone losing a limb or something, they can see it, but somebody who's like, mentally got problems, they're like, oh my God, what's going on? What is it? And then they sort of lock them away, and I've got a family member who's got this problem, and I speak to a friend of mine who's in Southwest London, and he says, the problem with the Asian community is the same they lock them away in a room, and how is that person going to grow? you just lock him away in the room because you're like, shame issues have come into it, stigmas have come into it, and he's like, but whereas that person, if we spoke about it, that person could have a real life, you know. And it's unfortunate that they just don't see it like that. You know, we need to change that.
Yeah, I'll see that. Just quick shout out to McGregor Norman. Thanks for coming along to have a listen to us. This is Jeff Mirza, actor, comedian, and engineer that I'm talking to now. I guess what I'm getting at there, Jeff, is that so you've scraped through school, right? You've got your academics, but you basically want to entertain people. Then you've got the university to appease the parents, done it again to appease the parents. And then you've done your stand-up and you kind of, bit hit and miss like the rest of us, but you've kind of found something now, I think, that fits. And
well, the face fits. Because I used to have this thing about, you look like Walter Matthau. You know, people say you look like which I think when you're about 18 or 22 and you're in a nightclub or whatever it is,
you don't want to
hear that. Not what you want. But now people are like, you know what? I want him. So I've got. I mean, I'm doing a Bollywood movie. I'm playing a sex therapist. I'm not saying that's with his face has got me that, but I don't really do Bollywood movies. But they were like, we want him. He is they made a big thing. We want him. Usually, they would get somebody else, I suspect, from someone from India. But
like you said, who else can we get in this price range? It's a case of, though. So then you're working in these industries like comedy, very solo, acting can be very lonely. How'd you cope when you're away and you're away from, because you got your young family and that? How'd you cope?
The young family takes up a lot of time in a good way, but you have to devote time. There's so many people out there who've forgotten their family, and then they woke up one day and the family's forgotten them, and they're like, well, how did that happen? What happened? You didn't put in your time, and they don't know who you are now. And so downtime is spent with the family, to be honest with you. You can't,
What about in your traveling? Because I noticed recently in a few of your posts, you got a trailer or a caravan. You're getting big league now, mate.
Yeah, this is the thing about, it's a trailer, and it's also a size of trailer, and sometimes it used to be a third of a trailer. It's like now it's half a trailer, and sometimes it's a whole trailer.
You might even get the end with the toilet next.
Yeah.
But how do you cope with then doors closing, or when it's not going well, when things are tougher?
You just have to look at it. This is like it's a circle. It's a circuit, and you get rediscovered again. You always rediscovered for a new age, for a new bunch of people. There's people out there who are like, you're really good. We've not seen you before, and you think, really? And then you think, but how old are you? And of course, you haven't seen me. And I did a gig over the weekend, and like 17-year-olds. We're really good, man. We haven't seen you. We haven't seen you before. And I was like, and then I did something at Hackney Empire about a month ago. And people were like, same thing. It was like, you're really brilliant, man. I mean,
the time has come.
Yeah.
I always found you hilarious, mate.
Yeah, no, but people who haven't seen you before, you remember, if they haven't seen you before, you haven't seen you before. They don't know you. It's like, okay, get rediscovered again, and then forward them, and you have to look at what is in, why did you get into this business? And the other thing, I was doing a lot of stand-up at one point. I remember doing like 45 shows a month, and then it became like a factory where I'm just churning it out, and then I wasn't getting anything from me, and then because I wasn't writing anything, so now I'm just doing the same material, and I'm doing the same, and I'm getting bored with me, and then you go out there, people are like, you didn't really want to be out there today, we could see that you were phoning it in. So then you have to calm it down a little bit and just pick the gigs that you want to do, and also always want to have some stuff that's in there for me, I did a show over the weekend. The guy goes, "Please don't swear," and I'm not saying I swore, but I stuck a semi-rude word in there. But that was for me, that was for me. And he was like, "You said," I said, "Yeah, but it wasn't a rude word." "Yeah, okay, no, I know, but you
just one half." It interests me though that as we get older, and especially as performers, it's physically tiring now. The traveling can be very tiring, and then
the traveling, something you just you're driving the car and you get up, Yeah, but the actual on the stage for myself, just speaking for myself, on the stage is lovely. I love it on the stage. On the stage, I can run around for 25 minutes, 45 minutes. People are like, you run around so much. But I'm somebody who runs around so much. As soon as you get backstage, you want someone to massage you and, carry you home or whatever, But it is. I remember driving to Leeds and from London to Leeds in one night, driving there, doing the gig and driving back.
Yeah.
Now, if you do that now, I wouldn't do it.
It's crazy. It's crazy. But yeah, we've all done that. How then? So, do you have those dark places that other performers have? Do you get them times when you just want to be on your own in a dark room in a corner, not interacting?
I never wanted to be, this stereotype about a comedian who's like really doing comedy, but he's really sad with his life.
Yeah.
I never wanted to be a person. I always wanted to avoid that. I mean, I'm sure you've been in changing rooms or you see some comedy genius, and then that person comes in the room and he's like, miserable as sin. And I never wanted to be that person because I think they're doing comedy for a different reason. I was doing comedy for like a reason for freedom to just like to thrive.
That's interesting. Yeah.
I never
to thrive.
So I never, if there's anything sad going on, I'd go out for a long walk or something, or go and do something else, or phone up my mum or something, just to do something. But I would never do that thing, But also the other thing is I stayed away from substances, which is, I think a good thing. Obviously, you go down that route, where you're drinking or whatever, taking drugs or whatever, then those things are, they do lead, I think, to that. Whereas I was always quite clean as a comedian,
See, it's a great question. Wigan has asked, how do you cope when you hit a dark space? I think we're both pretty similar in that. And I don't really do the dark spaces. I think that I've never had any kind of depression or anxiety yet. I don't know what the future's got in store for me. But I genuinely am upbeat. I'm very content. And I'm content. I'm not like a spiritual, thank you for great invisible man in the sky kind of person. I'm just really content. I'm going to get out of bed in the morning 5:30. I'll go out for the day, make people laugh. Maybe they'll learn something from me. Then I'll come home and then it's done. It's done. No secret to it. There's no. But I know people who, like you say, other performers are riddled with angst and darkness and sadness.
Yeah, or there's a bitterness out there, you see, and I've seen. I mean, I don't want to mention names, but there's people out there, and you think, and then I could have done that, I could have done. So, you have to. I just wanted to stay away from those kind of people and that kind of mindset completely. And I think having a family helps. Family life helps.
Yeah, but also I think going back to being forced out of bed on a Sunday morning to go and work in the shop, that's giving you some resilience and a sense of grounding. Do you think though, because you're one of the pioneers of the circuit for people of colour, right? Like it or not, it's something that you have to take.
I'm responsible for Rishi Sunak. I'm responsible.
Rishi Sunak, Paul Cowdery, there's loads of them. But would you like to start out again now? Because when you start, because I can remember doing a couple of gigs with you where me and you and Clyde, who's a black performer, and I sensed the hostility when we walked into the venue. But both of you kind of like went on, toughed it out, done your time, got off the stage. Now you would be expected to do that gig, and the room wouldn't be that hostile.
Yeah,
and yet you had to go through that, overcome that.
Yeah. And there was probably people before us, you see. I mean, it's a thing where, in a way, it's easier for people to come now because, it's just taken for granted, Whereas I think I was like a kind of novelty act, I used to sort of ham it up a bit as well. And I ham it up because it'd be like a joke about a joke for me, And so I ham it up, and then sometimes I play on my uncle. And so I'd be somebody else. So that's the way I think was a way of defending yourself, making sure it wasn't you who was being
yeah.
No, like a kind of photo. So I'd be somebody else up there, and that I think was a way of dealing with racism in a way, because then you could respond to racism in the same way your uncle responded in the 1960s or whatever, the same kind of way, and the way they sort of like laughed off or whatever they did. So you're right. But as ones who come now, loads of things are set out for them. Loads of things people have been there before. I mean, you see loads of Asian people, particularly on TV, and they're doing stuff, which is great. But that things, the public has been softened up, in a way. Whereas, in 1990 or 1988 or whatever, 1997, these things weren't around like that. It was different. But it's just every era is different. Time.
Yeah, its own problems, its own limitations. I dare say it's still as tough for youngsters coming through now as it was for you, but it's just that but I don't see them because I'm not on that circuit now. Like I say, I was just.
The problem now is that they have to get away from this stereotypes in a way, and so they have to write something completely different, and then they write something completely different, and then people are like, yeah, this has been done before, so they've got to come up with some more original stuff, and there's more of them because and same with the acting business. There's so many young Asian actors out there, and so there's lots of people.
Coming
there's
over, taking your jobs, mate. That's what they're doing.
They're not like us. They're not like us. We didn't even have school. We had to go walk 200 miles just to look at a book.
I don't understand.
We didn't have halal meat. I would have to fly to Morocco to eat a lamb and then come back in one night.
Bring it back. Sum it all up. You got sum it up. What's the secret? What's the tip you're going to give to young Muslim performers or young men starting out in a career that they're not sure they're going to be able to do?
Yeah. Make sure that you have internally you're doing it. You're doing it for the right reason, that you feel that. Don't do it because you think you're going to be famous, because I think that is a thing where you'll get unstuck, or you try to do it like to get likes or whatever, because then your originality will go. You see, if you just do things to get lots of likes and not people, so you get a following, but get a following on your own terms. Very important. Otherwise, what would happen is you'll end up becoming like a photo kit sort of person. You think, if I do this, and this, I can get to there. And then you find out it's all fake, and you're just like a fake person. And then you'll find somebody real will take it away. You think, why are they doing that? And they're doing that because they're just being themselves. And no one can ever criticizing you for being yourself.
Well, that's sound advice, mate. So when's the film out then?
The film's out January 27th. What's Love Got to Do with it? It's going to be out in cinemas. And there's another movie I did called Polite Society, which will be out a bit later on in March. Another movie where I'm playing a dad, and my kids are one of them is a kung fu expert. The other one is wants to be an artist. That's a comedy as well. So they've got a couple of good movies.
Are you going to write your own film on stage? Are you gonna?
I'm ready to go for now. I've got somebody who wants to. I'm executive producer for this other movie that a friend of mine is he's basically pitching it, and he wants me to be executive producer for. And it's got a pretty good chance of being made. But this business is like, you have to keep at it to get a movie made.
Of course.
Not easy.
Of course.
I've got
absolute pleasure talking to you.
All right. Okay.
Yeah, it's an absolute pleasure talking to him, and the hour's flown by. Thank you so much. I'll keep the link up on my Facebook page and on your Facebook page. Take care. Stay safe, mate. And yeah, absolutely. I hope to bump into you at some stage, my friend. You take care.
Okay, cool. Yeah.
Thank you. That was Jeff Mirza. Just a great chat. And for me to see someone doing well, because there's a lot of acts out here who they get picked up by the big agencies, they get picked up by television, radio, all that. And a lot of the time, the real talents, they never get a chance to shine. But people like Jeff, they give hope, I think, to everybody else. People who think, well, how can I get that? How can I do that? How can I be that person? Well, it's just about, I guess, you just got to keep going. You've got to keep making effort, putting hours in, putting the work in. It is difficult. It's not going to be easy for people to succeed. But what happens is that if you keep persevering, if you keep trying, you never know. You're doing something, you're moving forward. Keep moving forward. Part of the problem that we have, though, is that things will go wrong. They go wrong for people. And where then do you turn to for help? Now, Jeff, he's always wanted to be accepted on his own terms, and I think that's fantastic, as we all should. But sometimes you need some help, and I just want to draw your attention to an organisation called Inspirited Minds. I mean, it's aimed predominantly at the Muslim community, but that's only because I guess there are people with unique or different needs in these communities who are competing for resources in the greater pool, because there's a lot of people with a lot of problems out there. It's difficult, especially at this time of year as the nights get darker. If you need help, ask for help. Just ask for help. And if you can't ask for help, hopefully there'll be someone in your circle that can see that you're in trouble, and maybe they'll advocate on your behalf. Maybe they will step up for you. This time of year, people get very down. It's a natural phenomenon. It's called seasonally affected disorder. Things like you want to oversleep, you get tired in the day, you're craving carbs, putting on a bit of weight. But sometimes it can get worse than that. You can get lethargic, or you can get depressed, or you can start having very dark thoughts. And a lot of the time, people just suffer in silence. You don't need to suffer in silence. One of the things that we're all about here at Men's Radio Station, as well as Women's Radio Station, is about reaching out to people and letting them know that there is help available and that you don't have to suffer on your own. Sometimes, though, people will need practical help because depression, as we know, is a terribly debilitating condition. It can be marked by sadness, low energy, feeling worthless, having trouble thinking, trouble sleeping. You know when you're not well, you know when you're not feeling right. But, it's for other people around you to look at you and see that you're not all right as well. And a great point there, McGuigan again. Mate, you might be my new favourite listener. Always reach out. It's okay not to be okay. And that's just it. If you're living on social media, you're going to think everybody's happy all the time. But they're not. People have up times, good times, bad times. And if you haven't got a support network around you, where do you turn to for help? But that's when people like Mind and Time for Change can be very, very useful, as well as Men's Radio Station website. There's loads of help and advice out there for people. You don't have to suffer on your own. If you are interested in finding out more about me and what I do, happy2healthyou.com is my company, or @BodyJohnRyan on Twitter. You can always drop us a line, have a look at the website, happy2healthyou.com, and see if there's anything on there that interests you or stimulates you, or that you'll get involved with, or you think, should we do that, John? We're all part of the great sea of humanity, but sometimes people feel that they're on their own. You don't have to be on your own. There's a lot of places you can go to for help. There's a lot of resources out there that can be of assistance to you. Going back to my guest tonight, Jeff Mirza, he's gone from being a guy who worked in a hardware store on a Saturday morning as a child to now starring in international films. And he's done that without having perhaps the biggest agency in the country behind him. Maybe he's too old, maybe he's too Asian, maybe he's too working class, but you know what? He's overcome a lot of barriers to get to where he is today. And I guess we can all get to a better place. Again, no need to suffer in silence was the point I'm just getting to. You don't have to suffer in silence. There is help available. But it's about people around you listening, and not just listening with their ears. It sounds dark, but listen with your heart. You've got 2 ears and 2 eyes and only 1 mouth, so you should look and listen twice as much as you speak. But it's about making time for people. We don't have to live this life on our own. We don't have to all battle this life on our own. There's a lot of darkness coming because of the weather, because of the energy prices, because of the winter, because of the cold. And how are we going to get through those evenings and those days? Well, we're going to get through it together, aren't we? Hopefully. I appreciate some people do live on their own, spend a lot of time isolated, because one of the problems when people are going through a period of mental unwellness is that they feel isolated and they feel there's no one there for them, which again is why I do tune into Men's Radio Station and to Women's Radio Station, where there's always help available. There's always a show to listen to. There's different stuff on every day. Don't feel that you've got to suffer in silence, and don't feel that you've got to face the battles of life on your own. I'm back next Monday night with another guest. I don't know who it is yet because they keep dropping out. I have to keep finding new people. But whoever it is, I'm sure they will be energetic, upbeat, and willing to talk and tell their stories as we do every week here on Reading the Signs. In the meantime, just look out for one another. If you know someone who's struggling, reach out, maybe be the difference, maybe be the person that gets them the help that they can't get themselves. Do tune into us every Monday night at 7 p.m. and again at 7 a.m. It's out on SoundCloud if you miss one. In the meantime, I'm John Ryan. Take care. Have a great week, guys. I'll see you next week. Well, that's the end of another great show. What a brilliant guest that was. I could have spoken to them for hours. Don't forget to check out all the other brilliant shows on the mensradiostation.com website, as well as womensradiostation.com as well. Do subscribe to all of our media outlets, Facebook, YouTube, Instagram, Twitter, all those things, but tell your friends. Big thank you to Lost Boys UK, who have provided this fantastic music for the show. Check out my website, happytohealthy.com. We'll be back next week. Really do take care of yourself, and remember, you're not on your own. You're part of the mensradiostation.com family. Take care. Good night.